is more iconic than like a Carl Weathers or a Giancarlo Esposito. I mean,
more than Giancarlo Esposito, and maybe it's a local thing because he's like the local guy.
I mean,
Carl Weathers, no, but I just feel like I don't know.
But just especially over the last like 10 years or so, like Giancarlo Esposito has sort of like
exploded.
Well,
he's gone from being that guy to being a guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, still had great roles back in the day, like Smoke or all the Spike Lee movies and
I don't know. There's just certain people that blend in better, I guess, because they're like I'm trying to think. There's definitely other people who've been in. I don't know. It's in some of the Marvel movies I see kind of going in that way where they're casting a lot of like super famous people now, and I'm like,
and like they're expecting you to get like Keanu Reeves.
And I'm like, I don't know if I want to see Keanu Reeves as a superhero. Like I liked Chris Hemsworth as Thor because prior to that he'd done really, stuff, and but then like,
but I mean it's still always been incredibly huge. It's not like they're starting to. I mean, Chris Evans, was already,
he'd done stuff, but he wasn't what he is now.
Yeah,
but but Benedict Cumberbatch was huge. But when they put him in the movie, it just like he blended better. I guess I don't know. Like maybe it's just too many people I know sound like. It's got to be that I can't.
You just can't accept
Space South. He doesn't work for me. Or Canton. He's from Canton, actually.
But do you think it's more about the name or like who would fit for the role? Like, I mean, what do you think about like Simu Liu in Shang-Chi? The only thing he had really done before that was Kim's Convenience, and
which I'd never seen. So like, I think that's the first thing I'd seen him in. He was great.
Kim's Convenience. I'm not like a huge sitcom-y guy anymore. Like, there's not a lot of sitcoms that have come out in the last few years. That show was hilarious.
Okay, I'll have to check it out. But like, he was great.
Kim, Mr. Kim, Paul something. I don't know.
I'll give you another one. Nanjiani. First name is Camille. Was borderline. Was like. I'm so maybe it's how familiar I am with their other things. Like I love Bill Burr.
So it was hard to see him in like the Eternals. And
he was.
I still haven't seen it yet. Like
I really liked it.
You're the first person to be emphatic about like.
I really liked it.
Really liking
it's slow in the beginning, but because there's 10 people to introduce. 10 plus. But I like it because. I liked Thanos because in Thanos' mind, he's the superhero.
He's the good guy. And a lot of the stuff does make sense.
Yeah. And in Eternals, everyone's motivation is in conflict, but no one's wrong? Question mark?
But that's what I love about comic books. Have you had a chance to check out like Method Man has a podcast?
No.
It's the Marvel Method, so all they do is
talk really?
Marvel comics.
That's interesting.
And it's actually because he's a big bookhead.
Yeah.
Like,
that's a good name.
Yeah, and it's actually really good. He'll always have decent guests, like some Kevin Smith, Chris Gethard, and then like they'll just be talking about random like artists or writers, and then he'll just Chris Gethard, who's your favorite artist, or what book like meant the most to you, and then like 10 seconds later they got like the fucking creators like on the phone, and
that's cool.
Super cool.
Yeah.
But like the sort of like tagline of the show is that Magneto was right.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's kind of like the whole thing, like. You see things from like kind of skewed perspectives, and like you don't understand like comics do such a great job like fleshing out certain characters over like a series of books, and like really like the idea that Magneto was like a child of the Holocaust, and then like there's this like race of people, and now like humans are trying to annihilate them. It's like that sort of Jewish like never again mentality. But the other cool thing that they really talk about a lot on the podcast, which I never really considered, was the basis for like Professor X and Magneto, like the two people who inspired those characters in like the sort of direction that they go.
Okay.
who do you think the two real life people that
I never really thought
Magneto and Professor X were kind of based off? Like, you got to think about their strategy to sort of push these progressive issues.
Wait, isn't Martin Luther King and Malcolm X?
Martin Luther King and Malcolm X.
Malcolm X makes a lot of sense. Yeah. See, I'm such a horrible person, and this is how awful I am. The first person I thought of as inspiring Professor X was someone in a wheelchair, just because they're in a wheelchair. And I'm like, all right, I can't say that because that just makes me a douchebag.
You're a terrible person, Andy.
I know.
And we're recording.
I know. It's not my first time on this show.
But I love that ability to sort of like take these sort of like archetypal like personalities or like just methods of whether it's just like civil disobedience or just like outright rebellion and dissent and kind of.
So I had a funny story the other day. I was out having a beer, minding my own business. There's a couple next to me clearly on a date, and the guy was, I'd say on a scale of 1 to 10, about an 8.5 annoying.
Yeah.
Just, loud and whatever. And they start engaging me in this conversation. Turns out he was going down south. He was a state trooper going down south to learn how to break up protests. And he was extremely excited. And I was kind of like, I guess it's your job and whatever. And he's like, and he kind of starts like trashing like protesters. I'm like, protests aren't supposed to be convenient. Like, that's...
I never understood that.
I don't understand.
Like, listen, if you're going to be here protesting, you need to be in this square.
Yeah.
Like, you can't step out, like...
And even when it
goes totally against the purpose of protest.
And even when it isn't...
It's supposed to be inconvenient.
Someone like Kaepernick, who simply just took a knee, people still lost their mind.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's not interfering with anyone else. He's not shutting down traffic. He's not doing, it's not disrupting the economy. He's just taking a knee, and people still lost their mind. It's like, you're not supposed to enjoy a protest. That's not what it's about.
Yeah, it's about what are they doing? Yeah. Why are they doing it? What is the issue? Like, the whole point of it is to be like, hey, like, do I need to bash you in the face just to get your attention and tell you that there's some shit going on?
Yeah, I feel like you're supposed to go, hey, this person is willing to get arrested and whatnot. What are they trying to say? Like, what is so important to them that they're willing to go to jail over it? Like, to me, that's what you should be taking away.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
listeners, just this really deep social commentary. We have Josh Adams on stand-up comic, which obviously is why we're talking about deep social issues. Yeah.
Honestly, I didn't even know we started yet.
Yeah, but, that's what Fish does.
That was an awesome segue into like an introduction.
It's been a while since I've been able to do live record.
We haven't been recording live.
Why aren't you hosting shows, man?
Why? What hosting? Like stand-up shows?
Yeah, man.
Because then wouldn't I have to put together like...
Just like halfway through a joke,
Oh, hey, by the way. I can segue better than AJ. Oh, shout out to AJ. See, isn't that... When he was trashing people when we had him on, he had to, like... He wasn't really trashing people, but... He'd drop someone's name and be like, oh, that's a shout out to so-and-so. I didn't mean to derail the whole conversation because it was actually pretty...
Fuck, what were we talking about?
Protesting.
Anytime you got big crowds like that, you're always going to have some sort of like mob mentality. All it takes is one person to throw a brick.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, it's just like people like, there's just bad apples. It's not all cops. It's just bad apples.
Yeah.
But then they totally lack that sort of logic and reasoning when the shoe is on the other foot.
Yeah,
I don't understand that.
It's so intriguing to see. There's a huge amount of backpedaling, especially with like January 6th.
Yeah.
Over the Black Lives Matters, like when people were burning down a Target, they're all offended, but when they, try to derail democracy, they're like, well, that's not really what it was like, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, people died. Like, a woman was shot in the face, basically. It's crazy. It was bedlam.
Yeah, what do they say? You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes.
Yeah, for sure. But I suppose we should talk comedy.
Oh, no, I mean, don't get me wrong. January 6th, in its own way, hilarious. But
I mean,
it's fucking...
maybe. Actually, the hilarity in it, I've been watching a lot of them on like YouTube, is Jordan Kepler. Because he was there, and he's the one like goes in and interviews. Yeah, he's on the Daily Show, or does he have his own show now?
I think didn't he have a show after the Daily Show?
Yeah, I think.
I don't know.
That dude's got balls. That's all I can say is he goes into the hornet's nest and kind of pokes him.
But like when you're pretty confident that the person you're mocking isn't smart enough to know that they're being mocked, like you can kind of get away with more.
I guess, but I just feel like at some point you're gonna get.
But at the same time, like 95% of them are like open carry.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and would do the South Park. It's coming right for us.
Yeah.
It's a weird time we live in.
Yeah,
and I don't.
And then the other thing that kills me is like all these like Captain Hindsight people, like Candace Owens coming out and reading off like George Floyd's rap sheet. Like, why is this guy a hero? He did this, and this. Like, essentially he deserved it.
Die,
but it's like when they rolled up on the scene and when the whole thing was going, they're not.
His rap sheet's not.
It's not even in their, vision at the time. They're not even thinking about that. Same thing with like the Kyle Rittenhouse thing. Like, yeah, maybe this guy attacked him and he was defending himself, but everybody's like, that guy was a pedophile.
Yeah.
And it's like, was he wearing that on his shirt? Right. I'm a pedophile? And no, like, he got lucky.
I'm assuming they don't sell a lot of this. But, I mean, with the George Floyd thing, it's a perfect example. Is even the stuff that was on his rap sheet, none of those were death sentences.
No.
We don't kill people who commit crimes. Every crime. There'd be a lot fewer people.
Right.
It's crazy. And, I don't think much has changed in the past couple. I mean, things have gotten quieter in the past couple of years, but I don't think things have really changed. I was interviewing these guys from Denmark. I think it was Denmark. And we were talking about, this was like right after the inauguration. And they're like, oh, how are things over there? And I'm like, well, I don't wake up and check the news the first thing in the morning to see like what nightmare happened while I was sleeping. It's just a little quieter.
Yeah, but I mean, the last 2 years we've been in kind of a pretty steady nightmare state.
Well, that's true.
So like like 2016, it's like, what stupid shit did he say today? Yeah. Or like who in his like
the nightmare state circle started under him, and I would still have those like, oh, now he's telling people to drink bleach. That's awesome. It was still a matter like just daily craziness.
Yeah.
Do you use a lot of topical stuff like that when you're writing your comedy, or is it more personal stuff? See, AJ, that's a segue.
Taking this dude to class today. Honestly, I don't.
Yeah. I mean, your set is pretty personal. Like, talks about your mom and
yeah, I think.
Struggles.
At least like when you're talking about yourself, like, yeah, there might be some things like people disagree with, like as far as like my character or personality or upbringing. I don't know. They might not be a fan of the fact that I, talk about being Jewish. I don't know. But like, the second you go politics, like you're instantly dividing half the crowd.
Yeah.
Which like I'm fine with too. Like, it's weird. Like, Trump supporters, like, if it is a good joke, even if it is shitting on Donald Trump, like, they will laugh at it.
Yeah.
But, like, you go into certain crowds and you're like, not that I have any, like, right-wing sort of bits or, like, proclivity to write them, but, like...
Well, you were talking, when we were talking right before this, you were talking how you had a joke about how you weren't in favor of gay marriage because it only favors the divorce attorneys. And I mean it's right wing-ish, you know.
Well, I mean the whole thing started off with like about how I think that there's actually like I'm sure one or two, like you'll have like a gay guy who's been in a long-term relationship.
Yeah.
And you know, his boyfriend is like seriously advocating for, you know, legislature and gay marriage and to finally be able to take that next step and be married. And he's all gung-ho about getting married. And this other guy's like, you know, I'm enjoying the relationship, but I don't want to get married. And he doesn't want to have to be like, you know what, I don't want to do this. I'm not ready. I don't have fear of commitment.
I totally would, but we can't.
Exactly. So, like, he's out there, like, with the boy, you know, like, no on 8 and you know, something like that. And that was kind of like the idea. It's just...
It's funny,
but and just kind of coinciding like that, where like I think anyone should have the right to do whatever it makes. I don't give a shit.
See,
it's none of my business.
That's a good joke because it's not about whether or not
it's like against Christ or like
it's not a gay marriage joke. It's a relationship joke.
Yeah,
it's about the person who's not that committed in the relationship.
Because I would love to have a fucking rock solid excuse like that where it's not personal, it's legal. No, I can't do that because
I do love you, but I just can't get married. Shucks.
Oh, it would be awesome if it were possible.
Yeah.
You know, but
I would love to call you tomorrow morning. It's just not legal for me to do so. Yeah, that kind of.
Yeah, but like nowhere near being like, you know, marriage is between a man and a woman. It's Adam and Eve. You know, that's so stupid. Why do you care?
Yeah.
But the only, like, I think anyone should be able to do whatever makes them happy. But like I was saying, you know, like I have a lot of animosity towards like my dad's soon-to-be ex when he's going through a divorce. And he went out and got married to a divorce lawyer who he let talk him into doing it without a prenup, and you know, but
there's a movie. What the hell is it? It's a George Clooney movie, and it's these two
Intolerable Cruelty.
Yes, two divorce lawyers get married.
Yeah,
and I can't remember if it's like no.
Was that Catherine Zeta-Jones?
Yeah. It was, and there's like no. Prenup or like a crazy prenup, and so she like hires a hitman. It's pretty good.
But I mean, so it was just I wrote that around like the same time he started going through it, and it was just kind of like, I want everyone to be able to do what they want, but like the one reason I'd sort of like be against it because I see the people benefiting from it the most, like besides the individual couples, are the divorce lawyers.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know that that's just kind of where that
came. When you're writing stuff, is there stuff that's like too personal? Because like I've seen some comedians bring up some like really personal stuff. It seems like a lot of the ones I've seen recently have talked about struggle with mental health and.
Well, it's become a lot more acceptable to talk about mental health over the last couple years.
Yeah, for sure.
You got athletes, Kevin Love and Simone Biles and
Fish. What do they do?
Basketball player and gymnast.
Boom. Okay. He's on his shit. Yeah, all right.
I have to have him translate sports to.
But yeah, you know, like little things like this, you know. We live in a world where, like, you know, we got social media and, like, you know, athletes and musicians and, you know, all their businesses out there. So, like, we see all the little things that you wouldn't see So you can see when people are losing their mind, or you can see when people,
oh yeah, for sure,
you know, are struggling with things. And Jesus Christ, like, how could Simone Biles not, you know, like with all the shit with the trainer or whatever, and all the. You had to ask.
I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about.
And I'm realizing
that's the gymnast, right?
Yeah, sometimes you got to realize, like, you know, what your audience may or may not know.
My audience, I guarantee, knows more about sports than I do.
Andy.
Yeah.
But there was, like, the doctor or the trainer for the Olympic.
Huge
like,
scandal
molestation and, like, rape
okay.
scandal. The guy got, like, 205 years or
Holy
something, which
shit.
isn't enough. And
it's not enough, and it's still, wow, that's...
And she's competing, you know, in this thing that essentially put her in the crosshairs of this whole ordeal.
Yeah.
And, like, going back to the Olympics and just being like, oh, this like I'm still dealing with this shit. And, you know, some people lost their mind. Like, how could you let this deter you? And, like, you know, most people are like, dude, you're not in the fucking Olympics. Like, you don't fucking call in sick or, like, take a me day or something like that.
You have a bad day and you're an admin assistant.
But, like, you know, at least that lets, you know, your everyday people see, like, oh, this is, like, someone who has all these support systems or you know, all the money in the world and, like, what you would see as a good life, you know, and still struggling through that shit. And, like, you know, people might have an easier time asking for help. I don't. I don't have an easier time. But at least I acknowledge the fact that, like, it is more acceptable now, especially for men. Like, there's still, like, the, you know, toxic masculinity.
Yeah,
like, I still kind of have that same, like, were you a Sopranos fan?
No.
Mob guy goes to psychiatrist,
right?
That old story, you know, and you know he's in there and he's, you know, just like, hey, I wonder what the fuck happened to, like, the Gary Cooper, the strong silent type. You know, nowadays everybody's got a fucking therapist or, like, you know, fucking crybabies and you know, like I still have that, you know, like when I'm having a hard time or, like, dealing with a loss in, like, a way that might be detrimental to myself, like, you know, you fucking pussy. Like, people have it so much fucking harder than you. Yeah. And you're going to let this shit bother you? What, are you going to sleep till 12? You fucking put, like, you know, you know, I don't know if it's, like, just, I came up just before that.
Yeah, like I feel like we're in the same age bracket roughly, and it is that kind of...
We are equally gray in the beard.
Yeah, so. And it's that, like, we grew up under that toxic masculinity, but kind of our formative years, like high school, was when it started to kind of maybe formative, maybe a little bit later, maybe our 20s, when things started to be like, hey, you know, everyone is equal, and gay people should be allowed to get married, and, you know, everyone does have problems, and, you know, it's okay to say that you have problems, and so I feel like I was probably in my 20s-ish, so we were still not set in our ways enough that we could go, okay, that is something that, but we still have that underlying, you know, like, I'll still, like, I remember when my daughter was starting school, and, you know, I said to my son, I'm like, well, you're going to keep an eye on her on the bus. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, what do you mean? What do I mean? Like, you know, and it's like that, you know, don't let anyone fuck with your sister kind of, you know, which, I mean, isn't like, a bad thing. That might not be, it's not, you know.
I mean, we were still raised in that, like, boys don't cry era.
Yeah.
You know, oh, you cried in front of the whole school? Better change schools, you know?
You don't play with dolls, you play with action figure, you know. The gender, quote, norms.
Yeah. I don't know. I just... It's... The tough thing today is the landscape changes so much, like, so quickly now.
Yeah, for sure.
Where, like, the progress in... Whether it is, like... I don't call it, like, gender evolution.
Yeah.
I don't know. Because that's the thing about it. Like, you have to actively be either researching or trying to keep up with the Joneses as far as, like, what's acceptable when...
Yeah.
I don't know, like...
It's not even acceptable. It's like when we were younger, everything was like, this is good, that is bad. He is boy, this is girl.
Yeah, everything was super black and white.
Yeah, now if you start like looking into things, be like, well, there's a whole lot of genetic things going on, and there's multiple chromosomes and, chimeric, births and all these, like science never said there was just boys and girls. Like, that was what people narrowed it down to.
But, like, they're I don't know, in a way, like a level of effort that you have to put in. I don't know.
No,
I don't know if that's right. Well, it's like it's like this.
It's so much easier just to be like, well, there's two options. Good, I'm done. I'm gonna go watch TV.
Yeah, like when 50-50 and like you look for the signs and that's it. Like, that would be great. And like, I'm the kind of person where, like, you meet people all the time and you see people, that constantly at, like, different places, over and over again. And sometimes it'll take me, like, 4 or 5 times to meet the same person before I remember their fucking name.
Oh, 4 or 5. You're doing way better than me.
Yeah. Genius.
Yeah.
No, but, it's like, if it's going to take me that long to remember your name, or, like, we have such a passing sort of like acquaintance relationship, not necessarily friends. Like, how mad are you really going to get at me when I accidentally misgender you? Like, and not on purpose.
Right.
Because look, if you tell me your gender and I remember that, like, yeah, I'm gonna respect your shit. Like, I don't care. Like, that's why I think Philly, like Philadelphia, like.
Oh, is that what Philly means?
No.
It to me, John.
This is what I was thinking. Like,
like Philly. Oh, I'm sorry. That's Philadelphia for you, Andy.
Well, it's like Philadelphia is smart because they have certain words that are like gender non-specific. Like,
what do you mean?
Like, if you go to Philly, you'll hear the word John a lot, JAWN, which is just pretty much any noun. That party was the John. Oh, what's that? What's that John over there? Like, who's that John?
It's like Smurf?
Yeah. Seriously.
I've never heard that before.
Mark Lar in South Park.
Yeah.
So, like, if I'm at a bar and, like, I see someone I recognize, it's like,
what's up, John?
What's his name? What's her name?
Yeah.
Like, what's their name? Like, who the fuck are you talking about? Like, in Philly, it's like, what's that John's name again? Like, and there's no gender attached to it.
That's interesting.
I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Like, it would be so much easier being like a woke comic in Philly
without having
John.
It does make, and it's like we're talking about, like, we were on that weird cusp where I don't want to misgender you.
No, it's never
using they them is like, I've had grammar like pounded into my head and I'm terrible at it, but trying to use they them so it doesn't sound clunky to me, and not like bad, just I'd be like, wait, am I using they them? Is that right? And it just it's very unnatural to the grammar that was been drilled into my head. So
like, you're almost thinking about it mathematically.
Yeah,
it's like, wait a second. Like, them is plural, right?
Well, you're right, but there's only one of them. Oh, just use them and one. It's exactly.
But you see what I mean? Like, you when we grew up, it's like him or her, and then you got boys' toys and girls' toys,
and
like,
them is more than one. Yeah,
but we start to see that. Not everybody subscribes to that, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And it's not so important to me to be on the other side that I'm going to challenge anyone, because, look, I want to go out and do the things that make me happy and be the person that I want to be, and fucking sing the songs I want to sing. Fucking. Why the fuck am I going to waste my time, my limited time on this planet purposely misgendering you or challenging your identity or how you define yourself?
Right.
Like,
and the majority of the time when you see those YouTube videos of people doing that, it's someone in a convenience store or a grocery store. It's like, your interaction with them is literally seconds.
Yeah.
Just let them do whatever the fuck they want. Like, why is it a problem for you?
And it's kind of funny to see like the amount of time that people will put into like whether it's like trolling people online or arguing politics and it's so funny, like you sit back and you watch people argue politics and like you'll have these like right-wing people arguing like the Republican Party has never done anything wrong and everything that every Democrat has ever done was just un-American and fucking trying to tear down society and you know, and then the exact opposite. Like you got all these people on the left who like, yeah, sure, like in a lot of things they're like, you know, progressive. I respect the progressive ideals. I think it's no one else's business to fucking police how people live their lives and if it's not hurting anybody.
Right.
You know, obviously, like if you're hurting kids,
right,
you should not be here anymore. And but like consulting adults that want to do whatever, like that's what I believe. I think, you know, Bob Marley said like until the color of a man's skin is of no more significance than the color of our. I think that was like a Haile Selassie speech or something. But like that shit resonates. It's like why the fuck does any of that shit matter? But in the world that we live in, it does. So but
like to go back to your point, it's like it just takes so much effort out of your day to try and disrupt someone else's shit that's not any of your bit. Like it's just I just don't have the bandwidth to care.
But like you
like, I shouldn't say that, not to care, but to be like, why aren't you living the way I want you to?
Yeah, to spend that time to try to change the mind of one person who you know is.
Do you think these aggressive people are actually trying to change someone's mind? Because I feel like they're just yelling.
No, it's fucking like a dick measuring contest a lot of the time, and like you know that's what I'm saying. Like everybody's so like my side is great and your side is shit, and your side is shit, my side, you know, like. Dude, the Democratic Party, like there are so many people that are like virtue signaling on certain issues and, you know, all it is like, oh, I want these demographics to vote for this candidate.
Yeah, of course.
And then when we finally get there, like, oh, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Now I'm going to work on getting reelected.
I'm working on getting reelected. Nothing fucking changes. Yeah. Like, it doesn't, you know, like, we got the Latino vote, we got the black vote, we got the gay vote, and then fucking they're like, all right, what are you going to do for us? And then it's like, oh, you thought this was like a quid pro quo? No, like, sorry, like, appreciate it, like, catch you on the next, you know, fucking campaign trail.
Sometimes I feel like it's a matter of kind of unrealistic expectations, too, because I can't remember who I heard say this once, but, like, they're like steering the government is like steering an oil tanker. You can't take a 90-degree turn. Yeah. You know, and you know some people, and I'm not crapping on environmentalists. Sorry, I mean, you can send me.
It's
emails.
Biodegradable, so it's okay.
But it's like, you know, they'll be like, we need to get off coal energy. Not saying you're wrong, but we can't do that tomorrow.
Yeah, right.
Like you have to kind of like move that freighter in that general direction. And sometimes faster is better, but we're not going to turn on a 90-degree angle and like next year be on renewable. It's just not a feasible thing.
Yeah, but and then you throw a bunch of fucking lobbyists in the middle of that. It's like, dude, there's too much money for anything to really change.
Yeah,
and
I mean, I think things change. I think it just takes generations opposed to years.
Yeah, but just I don't know. It's so hard to really like get inspired by anyone when like it's hard to see anyone as not just completely full of shit.
Yeah,
you know, it's like I was saying with like the virtue signaling. Like, you remember like Hillary Clinton during the campaign, like showing up on like the Breakfast Club like radio show, and they're like, you know, what do you carry in your purse all the time? And she's like, oh, I don't go anywhere without hot sauce, like trying to like be like, oh, see black people, like I'm just like you. She's doing the fucking nay on the Ellen show, and like, you know, people start to fucking see through that shit. It's like, dude.
And it
seems so disingenuous.
It does, but the worst part, and this is the part I think that is the shittiest, is they almost have to do that because they have to like engage their base demographic or base voters. It's all rallying the base. Because that's how you get elected. And it's like if you were just like middle of the road and you didn't get those psychopaths that, you know, on either side to vote for you, you're not going to win. You know, the guy in the middle is too generalized and doesn't...
They never inspire. Yeah. Like, you know, that's the thing. Like, you're rational, like, centrists.
Yeah.
Like...
The rational centrist persons go, oh, you might have a point, but blah, blah, and then the...
But you never see, like, radical centrists.
Yeah.
You know? Fundamentalist, like, centrist terrorists. you just don't see it. They're always on the
blowing
fucking
stuff
fringes.
Up, being like, I think everyone's got a point.
Like, fucking... I don't know.
I gotta say, when I brought you
blowing up this building for cooperation.
Until we all get along.
Right.
This was not, and this podcast really goes in the direction I expected to, but this was not the direction I expected.
See, every time we talk about Star Wars, it gets political and go into like Marvel Comics.
Well, that's how we Marvel Comics definitely, because Marvel Comics very much hit on like political topics and whatnot.
Yeah, all the time.
I feel like Star Wars sometimes tries to go too far into that because it's just like, I don't really want to talk about trade treaties. This is boring.
I mean that's what I love about creatives and art. Like, you get to see this timeline of sort of like what the issues were at like certain times. You know, like things like the George Romero movies, like, you know, Night of the Living Dead, so and good. Like Dawn of the Dead and stuff like that.
Night of the Living Dead I saw like way later, like well into my adulthood, and I saw it on like one of the anniversaries, and I saw it, and I'm like, I can't believe this movie got made.
Yeah,
like this is so cutting edge.
It's so, but how monumentally, like accidentally monumentally significant that movie was.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's just a bunch of friends, like, we're going to make this movie. And it's like, oh, who's the best actor? Who should be, you know, the protagonist of the show and the hero? And it's like, oh, the fucking black guy's the best. And
no one stopped. This is the 1950s.
Yeah, right? and you know...
Like, did he just slap that white woman? This is not going to be okay. This is like the Klan still has pull.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it turned out to be like such an amazing,
it's phenomenal,
groundbreaking movie just because of that. And like they weren't even thinking about it, and that almost makes it better. It's like they weren't like, oh, like we can't, you know.
Yeah.
You go to like studios now, and you know, for years it's like, oh, this role can't be portrayed by this person because, you know.
It's like, that kind of thing that you really want. Is like, it's not, we didn't cast him as black. We didn't cast him not to be black. We just cast him because he was good.
Yeah, exactly. You know, but, like, you know, even still, like, you see how many shows are whitewashed. Like, you know, you go back to, like, Kung Fu.
Yeah.
You know, that was Bruce Lee. Like, that should have been fucking Bruce Lee. And they're like, yeah, sorry, little Chinaman.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to put David Carradine in this shit. And, you know,
And going back to Eternals, I think that's why Eternals got so much grief, is it? It's such
there's a gay guy in it.
It's such a diverse group, you know?
Yeah. And... I don't know, people get so up and on. It's so funny just seeing what people lose their mind about in these fantasy fucking movies.
Yeah.
You know, Finn, the hero of the new Star Wars, is black. Oh, like Rey in fucking Hunger Games is a little black. Why are they making all? It's like, dude, because the heroes aren't always white.
Right.
9 out of 10 times.
Like, historically speaking, a lot of the white quote unquote heroes are pretty problematic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Christopher Columbus, not really a hero.
Like the standards of like how perfect you have to be heroic these days.
Yeah.
You got to be a damn near saint.
Right.
If you say anything, and like, yeah, it's fucking, everyone's talking about fucking cancel culture and shit, but it's like, you could be a slave-owning rapist to be a fucking American hero. Yeah. Like, nowadays, I just said slave-owning rapist on a podcast, and like, just in context.
Yeah, and but we can clip that out.
Yeah, just make that like the flashing before the show.
That's gonna be my ringtone every time you call. Yeah, and it is, and it's that, even go back, back to the 1950s. You had private conversations. Now it's like, you were on a hot mic and you called that reporter an asshole because they were being an asshole. It's like, I'm so happy there's not like a voice, we've been talking about doing like more video stuff, and that very much is in my head where I'm like, all right, we're going to like make sure like we shut mics off, and because I'll say off-color shit frequently. And sometimes I think it's funny, and sometimes it's just me being an idiot and saying something, which our editor is so nice to edit most of that out.
Yeah, so Andy dropped the N-bomb a bunch of time out in the parking lot before the show just to get it out of his system.
Not true. What, it's not out of your system?
No, it was all anti-Semitic stuff. It wasn't.
I gave him permission. I speak for all of us.
You like the Lorax for Jewish people? So we actually saw you perform last night. Get this a little on track. Killed, by the way. Knockabout, great show.
Thank you.
You are promoting your own shows now.
Yeah, finally starting to get some shows.
How long have you been in comedy?
It'll be 3 years in April.
Oh. So did you start right before COVID or during COVID?
How long do you think? I started.
COVID's like 2.5. So you would have been right before COVID. Dude, time means nothing anymore.
I started just about a year before COVID. So because so the first show that I ended up doing was for AJ.
Yeah.
March 13th, 2020.
Jesus. That was like
the news had already come out.
Yeah, they're like, Monday,
we're fucking mask, we're shutting everything down. And it was great. Like it gave me like a decent opener, this is my first time ever on stage in front of fucking people. AJ the Booker was like, doesn't really matter. Like, they'll all probably be dead soon anyway. So, yeah, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, that's super low pressure.
Yeah. No, exactly, right? Like, the whole world could be over. Like, how bad could bombing this show be? And, like, it's kind of nice, when, like, death is imminent, like, who cares if you get shot down by, like, the pretty girl down the street? You can live...
It has
like that Breaking Bad sort of like, fuck it, I'm going to die. Let's cook some meth.
It's just making me think of Don't Look Up.
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, okay.
I have not seen it yet.
Oh, man, it took me like 4 sittings to like get through it because it's too close to home. Like, it's good, but it's just,
Well, you watched that 4 times in the last 2 weeks?
No. Like, I had to sit. Like, I'd watch it for like 20
you had
minutes,
to walk away from it.
And like, I'm like, I need a break. Like, this is
stressing me out.
Yeah.
I need to smoke a cigarette. I don't even smoke, but I'm going to have
This is too much. Like, it's one of those satirical, looks at society that when you look at it, you go, God damn, this is exactly what would happen.
Yeah, like it holds up the mirror to you, but it's like fluorescent lighting, so you see how shitty everything looks.
So you're like, oh man, all right, I can go take a walk, get a hug, I'll come back to it tomorrow, and sit down and watch the rest.
Yeah, I'm gonna call some friends, tell them I love them.
Yeah, texting my kids and be like, hey guys, what's going on? Dad loves you. The world's not a terrible place, promise. But there's like one person. I mean, you know the premise. There's like an asteroid coming towards.
Yeah.
Or a comet. And there's one person who's like, we should get married, and the girl's like, fuck it, why not? And it's that kind of, what's the worst thing that can happen?
What's the worst thing that can happen? Like, we could see, we're looking down the barrel of a gun. And what?
So how did you feel that first performance went with, death looming?
I thought it was good.
Yeah.
Great reception, great room. Hey, no matter what you think of AJ Haypenny, he puts on some great shows.
Well, let's talk about it.
He's been very, very good to me, and like there's only so much of us on Cape Cod.
Yeah.
A lot fewer now. But it was always important to AJ and Ed. Edwa, shout out Edwa. To try to establish shows on Cape Cod. I mean, it's a great place, and a great place for comedy, like in the right circumstances. And they put a lot of effort into trying to bring a scene and bring people out from Boston or all over New England. And
AJ seems very like encouraging of people who are like
who he sees putting in the time and effort.
Yeah.
And, trying to harness potential and gives people a shot. And I got nothing but for AJ for that. And
we can edit that part out, right?
Yeah. Yeah, please do, actually. I regret saying that.
But, and then bleep
instantly. No, but and dude, last night's show was
it was a great show.
So much fun. Yeah. So much fun. Like, the last time I saw Christine Hurley was 7 years ago at like Comics Come Home, like sold out garden.
Yeah.
Sharing the stage with a bunch of legends. Like, getting to open for her last night was definitely a highlight.
That's awesome.
And then that was also like the first night my mom showed up.
Yeah, you were saying that.
Which was cool. She didn't give a shit that I was there. She came to see Christine Hurley.
How did she feel about your set, though? Because you do like kind of a lot of jokes, kind of
about her.
About her, yeah. Did she know that before?
She knew that before, okay. and she's she knows there's some embellishments
of course,
in there.
Yeah.
Like every joke needs a little embellishment. But no, she had a blast. Yeah, it just we had some rough years, but like
everybody does.
It turned into a great bit. So I'm sorry, Mom. Like, I know you were in the hospital for a long time, but it was worth it for me. She had a lot of fun.
Yeah,
and it was.
I think a lot of comics, do that kind of stuff where they reflect on their life to the point where I'm like, man, who would get in a relationship with a comic? Because like, how much of your life is going to end up on stage? And
yeah,
like when you because you said you've been dating someone pretty seriously. Like, do you have like guidelines where she's like, all right, this is not stage worthy? Well, I don't care if you say this shit, but.
I met her at a comedy show.
Yeah.
So she knew right away that I was a comedian. She came up and, it was very funny.
Yeah.
Probably the first person to like tell me I was funny, so I was like, I like you.
I love
you. Yeah, just play to a guy's ego, ladies. It's fucking easy. We're simple creatures. But it was like, yeah, like you know who I am and what I was about. And I think like that night I had done a bit about my ex, like who growing up, since I was a little kid, was the love of my life, and you know, also like my best friend, off and on girlfriend, she had passed away. Oof. And I was doing bits about that, you know. It was darker jokes. Yeah. I like, you know, I think we talked a little bit about like certain comics who influence you, and or like who you pick like little things from. Like, you know, one of the people I really, my style isn't the same, but sort of the amount of like tragedy in the sets. Yeah. Like Chris Titus.
Okay, yeah.
Talks a lot about his mom and her mental illness and suicide. Suicide and like, you know, dad dying and all this stuff, and like taking the hardest things. Yeah. Like not just like I had a shitty day and I'm gonna make this funny, but the hardest days. Yeah. And taking those and actually squeezing some fucking joy out of it. Yeah. It might not be for me. It might just be cathartic for me, or giving me the ability to like laugh at it. You know, the whole adage like we're not laughing, we're crying, and but he does that pretty consistently. You know, a lot of his shit has sort of things like that. So that's one of the people like who I would sort of say like I aspire to this aspect of that person. Yeah. And like I was doing bits like. You know, we had a cat together before she passed, and I took the cat and, you know, had this cat for a long time. But before she passed, like, her older brother was my best friend. Yeah. And he killed himself in 2002.
Jesus.
My best friend. And after that, you know, she moved out to California, and I'd go hang out with her dad a lot. He'd be home by himself, and they had cats running around. And he had some issues, drink, do a little blow, smoke some weed and stuff. And the cats would walk up, and he'd grab the cats, like, look at the fucking cats. Like, look in the cat's eyes. You can see Scotty's face in the cat's eyes. Fucking look at the fucking cat, Josh. Look at the fucking cat's eyes. You fucking see Scotty's eyes. And that sort of like developed into like this character I was doing, like doing her dad, like with these cats and shit. And now like she passed away, and I took the cat, and I'd always be thinking about her dad. Look at the fucking cat's eyes, and I'd always be seeing this girl's eyes and the cat's eyes, and then I'd be like scared to jerk off in front of her, something like that. It was just like you know, stupid things. It's like, you know. Like, you know, you do, like, self-deprecating humor or something. Or, like, sometimes, you know, doing, like, you know, get, like, sympathy laughs. Not necessarily, like, sympathy laughs, but still try to... Kind of like a lot of my shit is dark or, like, dirty, but, like, you get that, like, oh, he's been through some shit. Like, he seems like a good guy. He's fucking trying to make everybody laugh after all this shit. Yeah. Like, taking hard stuff and trying to make people laugh. It's
like the sad clown. I mean, it's like that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's such a like a trope,
right? Yeah, you know? But it's a trope for a reason, you know, because it works.
Like, you know, if I didn't have this microphone in my face, I'd have a gun in my mouth. Like, that's sort of like the comic caricature nowadays. Like, you know, like just. So like we were talking, like, do I do a lot of political stuff? Yeah. Like, no, like I try to make it more about me. Like, there are things like, oh, I'm watching the news or something happened, and I'm like, oh, talking about this would be funny, but like
sometimes you have to. It's just
like, sometimes you got to.
Like I feel like during lockdown when we started the non-essential comedy show. Everyone kind of like, all right, I'm getting my toilet paper jokes out. All right, I'm getting these. Like, you know, it's like, let's just get them off the you know, off the page.
And that's another thing. Like, I like to consider myself like, you know, a student. Yeah. And understanding that there's so many different sort of, I guess we'll say like delivery systems. Yeah. You know, whether it's like the Zoom shows or live shows or like late night or, you know, specials or. if you're watching all the late night shows, they're all doing the same fucking premises. Mm-hmm. Like the whole, their whole opening monologue. Oh, this happened today. They're going to talk about this, and this.
Yeah, you can almost watch the news and then go, okay, the monologue's going to be about
and
this.
And then same things. Like if you're constantly going to open mics or shows and, especially like midweek shows, and you got comics like trying to get like a cheap laugh out of like what happened today or something. Yeah. It's like I don't know how many fucking times over the last like couple weeks like. I'd be at a show or a mic and somebody tries to sneak in like an Omicron Transformers joke. It's like, dude, really? Yeah. Fucking, you could have just not said anything.
Yeah.
And
it's like we all thought that one.
Yeah.
It was almost too obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's healthy to live with a good fear of being a fucking hack.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I've had hacky jokes.
I was going to say, is there one joke that you've done that, like, fucking bombed, but you're still like, I still think it's funny?
Yeah, we all do.
Yeah.
And, sometimes you do that at a night where it's just not the right night or the right... I'm not one to blame the crowd, but, like...
Some crowds are going to laugh at something. Some crowds
we've all been to an open mic where it's just 20 comics who don't give a shit about what you're doing and they're just waiting to go on.
Yeah.
And you're not going to really get anything. Or maybe like Lloyd Legacy Sharp's there and he's the only one laughing. And you're like, I don't know, was that good? Like that got a great laugh. But no, it's just fucking Lloyd. Shout out to fucking Lloyd. I fucking love Lloyd. So, but then like you do it in front of those 20 open micers or comics like working on some shit and just waiting on their time or like going over their shit in the head. Because comics, a lot of us don't really care what the other comics are doing. We're focusing on us.
Right. Especially if you're waiting to go up.
Yeah, especially if you're waiting to get in the right headspace. You're in your head, you're trying to get your timing down or like psych yourself up or whatever it is. We all have our methods. But like... You're like, oh shit, like I didn't like how that came out or I didn't like the reception of that, and then like you're apprehensive about doing it again at the next, you're trying to find the right place for it.
Yeah.
You have a bomb set, so you're like you bomb a set and you're like, all right, like next time I got to do my fucking A+ grade A.
Yeah.
Fucking top shelf. Jokes and, just to try to get your confidence back or something like that.
It's like I have done a lot on stage. I was in theater as a kid. I was in bands, you name it. But like stand-up comedy.
So you just lost your virginity recently?
Technically 20 years ago. I have proof. If you see my son, he looks exactly like me. There's no denying that kid. But one time, whatever, twice. Have him twice. I have 2 kids. I have proof. I have proof, everybody.
Shooting 100%.
That's right. But it's so different I'm assuming being stand-up because you're just by yourself.
Yeah.
Like I at least could blend into the background or I'm not on stage the entire time or it's got to be way more nerve-wracking.
I'm still waiting for it to get easier.
Do you think it's gonna? Though?
No, I don't. I don't necessarily want it to.
Yeah.
You hear a lot of comics like first come to mind like you see the Eddie Murphy on like Comedians with Cars.
I've seen a bunch of those. I don't think I've seen the Eddie Murphy one.
Eddie Murphy one's great.
Yeah. I just watched the Obama one.
This is a good episode.
It is good.
But he's like, there's nights where I'll be like, I'm gonna go out there and fuck this shit up. Like I got my shit down, I got my timing down, I'm gonna have the best show out there, and those are the nights you go out there and eat shit.
Yeah.
But the nights you got the bubble guts and like you feel like you're gonna throw up shit on yourself, and then you go out there and just destroy. It's like that that stress, that adrenaline, it does kind of kick your concentration up and on. Last night I was, first time mom's coming, fucking Christine
for sure,
and Janet McNamara is a fucking beast, and I mean she's so good.
I was trying to explain her to someone earlier, and I'm like, her jokes are so simple, but her delivery is amazing. So and I'm like, I can't do it. I can tell you her joke word for word, and it's gonna be, you're just gonna stare at me, and I'm gonna have to go, hey, you would have had to be there. Like her delivery's so good.
Yeah. Like. Yeah. But people like that, like when people ask me my age, like nowadays, like I'm not thinking my real age, I'm thinking my comedy age.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm like, I'm 2 3/4. Like, I'm still thinking of it like that.
48 months.
And I might be an older guy. I started later, so I still have this like admiration for like people. I told Christine, like, dude, I'm fucking going to class tonight. Like, I love this shit. And so, like, I still see them as, like, the upperclassmen.
Right.
So, and like I said, last time I saw Christine, it was fucking a Boston Garden. Like, this is shit, like, I don't know if I'd ever see myself making it anywhere near there.
Yeah.
But, I love it. I'm going to keep doing it. So, like, I'm shitting on myself all fucking week. Like, it's Christine Hurley show. I'm a fucking bomb, terrible. I know it. But again, shout out to AJ. Knockabout Brewery in Mashpee is one of the best rooms in New England. Like, I've never seen a comedian have a bad set there. Like, it is a great, great room.
2 shows there, and they're both super fun. Yeah.
I haven't been to all of them, but I think I might have missed 2 of them.
Yeah. I gotta say, I mean, God, I hate giving AJ compliments.
Yeah, I do too.
But he really does a great job of like putting together shows where everyone kind of meshes, and we've been running the shows at New World, and people, friends of mine who come to the show, they'll be like, this was really funny. They'll be like, yeah, they're comics, that's their job. But like, I understand what they're saying is like, I don't know who any of these people are, but they still made me laugh. Like, we tend to think of comics as, like, if I don't know their name, they're clearly not funny enough.
And that is infuriating. Like,
I get it. I mean, it is what it is, and I hate to say that, but it's almost that mentality of, like, well, if they're really funny, they'd have a Netflix show,
And that's the thing, like, so few people who don't know comedians or hang out or go to a lot of shows don't understand how much goes into that Netflix special.
Right.
I'm years in. I'm years away from not like just having the amount of material to fill up that time, let alone it being quality enough to fucking put it out there.
Yeah.
So to think that like you're just gonna go sit in your room, write a fucking hour special, and go up is insulting, and just not even like you talk to most people. It's like 8. I'm 8 years deep before I put that first special.
But this, I think, is one of those things that, and this is across the board with creative people and non-creative people. The non-creative people have no idea what the creative people have done to do what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, you're naturally talented. Fuck you.
My God, thank you for saying that.
I fucking worked my fucking ass off. I worked my fucking ass off to fucking figure out these chords, to figure out music theory or some progressions or
do you know how many sketches I did to make that
vocal training or like I have you ever read Outliers?
No, I know of
Malcolm Gladwell.
No.
The premise is essentially like to master anything, it takes 10,000 hours.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
starting out doing comedy, you're doing it 3 to 5 minutes at a time.
Right.
You know, after that, you're doing it 5 to 7 to 7 to 10, 10 to 15.
Yeah.
You know, even if you start
to
just start featuring all the time, like you're still getting what? An hour a week? Maybe if you're fucking lucky.
Yeah.
Like yeah, and sure, like maybe that includes like what you're doing, writing. Like, people are like, "Oh, driving to the fucking gigs counts." No, it fucking doesn't. You know, and not everybody's Dave Chappelle, who's gonna have a place where you can do fucking 6 hours straight.
Yeah,
you know, like we're doing this fucking like in sprints,
right?
In fucking sprints. Like, how am I supposed to work on like a full cohesive 1 hour special when I have to fucking reduce everything to 3 minutes for the Comedy Studio or 5 minutes at, you know, some other fucking open mic, and you know.
Yeah, I mean, even if you did like what, if you're lucky enough to do 10 minutes, it would take you a whole week to even get your hour out.
But where are you getting a 10 minute spot on an open mic?
Right, yeah.
You know, if you're doing 10 minutes, you're doing 10 minutes on a show.
Yeah.
So if you have a bit that's 10, 15 minutes, like you're fucking, you got to find the right opportunities to work on that shit. And you got to eat yourself in a fucking club, like where people know it. At least you know right off the bat if it works or not, more than you would at an open mic. But you got to put that fucking time in. Like, And like that, it's been a problem with things that I'm one of those like jack of all trades. Like I'll pick new things up all the time, and I pick things up relatively quickly, but at the same time I'll put them down relatively quickly and move on to the next thing because I'm super ADD with that. Like playing music and a couple different instruments where I'm not good at any of them, but I can fucking kind of play a little bit because I'm jumping all over the place, or comedy, art, and whatever, fucking horticulture. Fucking,
I don't know if you can call yourself a horticulturalist just because you grow pot plants, man. I'm not saying you can't. I just said I don't know if you can.
I don't know. It doesn't matter. Like, you know, it was really just like the guy I met who was hooking me up with weed in Cape Cod when I first moved out there. Like, turned to be like the craziest QAnon, like fucking conspiracy theorist, and I just couldn't take it anymore. And I found a seed in one of the bags I got, and I was like, never seeing you again. Fucking, you know, started growing.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, like I'm super ADD with stuff. Like I was doing that, and then like, you know, ordered a bunch more seeds, and then I'm like, I started watching like we were binging Cobra Kai.
Oh yeah.
And then from that, I started growing like weed bonsai trees.
Bonsais?
Like fucking
bonsais. I like that.
Can of bonsais.
Yeah.
And just like, you know, gotta give my mom a nice little bonsai tree for fucking Mother's Day last year. No, it was just fun.
Just like,
I got a couple. It's just like therapeutic. Like, I'm stuck in the house for a year. Like, what the fuck else do I got to do?
And we started a comedy show.
Everybody else did.
Yeah. But I don't know. What are we at for time there?
Oh God, like an hour 10.
Okay, I think it's about time we wrap up. I mean, we're just going to go to lunch and keep talking. But, Josh, where can people go to check out your show, your social medias, TikToks, whatever you got? All
right. They could go to 1 Inch Punchline Comedy on Facebook. I'm also on Facebook. I'm fucking old. I'm not on IG or Twitter yet. I need to get on
TikTok?
That. Yeah. No, I was going to, and then AJ did it, and I was like, "No, I'm good.
I'm all set."
Nah, bro. No, I'm like a fucking boomer now. I don't know, man. They could catch us there.
Where is the 1 Inch Punch show? Does it have a set location?
It's not a set location right now. Our first venue that we're doing shows at is at the Cleat and Anchor in Dennisport on Cape.
And it's you and Jamie, right?
It's me and Jamie Aird. Jamie Aird is hilarious. One of my good friends. We've had some great shows. So we've had 3 shows so far. You know, had the likes of Janet McNamara was on it. Sam Ike.
We got Jay Whitaker coming up.
We had Jay Whitaker on this past Saturday.
Oh, that was
sold out show with Jay Whitaker. Jay is a monster.
He's great.
Jay is great. I fucking love Jay. We also, Peter Liu, Ali Gennaro. Ali crushed. Peter was great. Dude, she's funny.
Yeah,
she is really funny. I'd have her on all our shows.
I'm trying to remember if I've seen her. I think I.
She's good.
I'm at that point where everyone's name sounds sort of familiar, but not totally familiar.
I mean, just like we're on Facebook so much, and just kind of constantly seeing names or like people you may know.
Yeah.
You recognize names, and there's so many fucking I'm still getting Facebook requests from open micers from all over the country. It's just it's great. Yeah,
Facebook is a great tool, but I hate being on it sometimes.
But yeah, we had Dan Bolger on the second show. He kills me. The next show is Saturday, March 4th with one of my all-time favorites, Rodney Norman.
I don't know if I've seen him.
You don't know Rodney?
Oh, wait.
He got huge. He got huge on social media during the pandemic. He would do these like almost like inspirational videos or just like these silly like pep talks and stuff. Yeah. These like ex-military Mormon guy from Utah who looks like an old like hobo-y like Santa Claus kind of guy. Okay. He never touched a drug in his life.
Yeah.
And just has this kind of super slow, like drawn out delivery, like very fatty jokes, but so funny. I mean, definitely check him out. I mean, he had millions of views over the pandemic, and well deserved. I am so excited for this show.
That's awesome.
I mean, he's
and people can go onto your website and get tickets there.
They could go on 1 Inch Punchline, also Eventbrite.
Eventbrite, yeah.
Yeah, and I think tickets for this next one should go pretty quickly. We're trying to talk the venue into adding a second show.
Yeah.
We also got Zenobia Del Mar on it.
Yeah.
Love Zenobia. She's great, and Carl Shee.
Cool.
So that'll be a good show. And right now we got the same mission statement as AJ.
Yeah.
Couple guys trying to bring more comedy to Cape Cod and trying to build the scene out in Cape Cod more. And so far so good.
Yeah.
We've had fun, no problems at the shows.
That's kind of our mentality. Is like as long as we're having fun.
Yeah, and the comics who've been on have enjoyed it so far, and nice. And yeah, I mean, it feels good. Like I was trying to do the same thing with Sam Buck.
Yeah.
A few years ago, our first show was booked for April 17th, 2020.
Yeah.
And
the number of things
was like, you excited for that show?
Yeah. I remember the day in like late March just
where it's like everyone's
just
posting
going
their
through our event list. Cancel.
20 shows canceled. It was brutal. It was so brutal.
It was a pleasure having you on the show, man.
Pleasure being here with you guys.
Thank you for our listeners listening. We'll catch you guys next week. We're going to go grab some grub.
Awesome.
And thanks for checking out the show today, listeners. If you enjoyed the content today, you can go over to patreon.com/Inebri-art to support the show. You can join over there for just a few dollars a month and help us provide this fun content that you just checked out. You can also email us at Inebri-art.com with your questions, complaints, and concerns, or you can find us on all social medias at Inebri-art or at Inebri-art6 on Instagram. And also don't forget to check out our other shows, Bar Talk Podcast, Old Colony Cast, Inebri-art, and all the other shows on the Inebri-art Network, which you can find at Inebri-art.com. So thanks again for listening.